Tonight, we are going to meet someone, a woman who lived by Wanfu Bridge, yet no one remembers her real name. In the late Qing Dynasty, Chengdu's Wanfu Bridge dock was always alive. Boats drifted in and out. Thick ropes scraped against wooden posts with a slow, tired creak. The air carried the damp scent of river water, wet wood, and, from somewhere nearby, the warm fragrance of oil sizzling in a pan. Porters walked the stone paths with heavy sacks across their shoulders. Sweat ran down their backs. The stones beneath their feet were dark and slick from river mist. And just beside that busy dock, there stood a small eatery. Its doorway was narrow, the wooden door usually half open. The door frame had been polished smooth by countless hands pushing their way in. A paper lantern hung outside, swaying gently whenever the evening breeze passed through, its light flickering like it was growing sleepy. The woman who ran the place, no one remembered her birth name. After she married a man called Chen Chunfu, people simply referred to her by his surname. Her husband had pockmarked skin, and the neighbors called him Chen the Pockmarked. Before long, she too became known by a nickname, Chen Mapo. What was her real name? No one could say, but everyone remembered her. She was not tall, slender, fair-skinned, calm eyes. Her voice was soft but decisive. Her hair was always neatly coiled and secured with a simple hairpin. Her apron, faded from washing, was spotless. When you stepped into her shop, she would glance up. Not overly warm, not cold, just steady, as if to say, "Sit down, it'll be ready soon." There are people like that. They make the world feel stable. The place was small. 5 or 6 wooden tables, corners rounded by years of use. The surfaces gleamed with a soft sheen, not greasy, just well cared for. Low benches where your feet rested flat on the floor. A bamboo abacus hung on the wall. Pickled vegetables sat in ceramic jars in the corner. At the back, the clay stove crackled with firewood. The wok was black iron, seasoned by years of flame until it shone dark and smooth. The cutting board was thick, marked by knife lines but never smelling stale. Fresh water was changed daily. Blocks of tofu rested in wooden trays, submerged in clear water, pale as moonlight. It was not a fancy place, but it was clean. The floor was swept. The cloths were wrung dry. Bowls and chopsticks were stacked neatly. The porters came not only because it was affordable, they came because it was honest, dependable, like a bowl of food you could trust. The famous tofu dish was never planned. It was born from almost nothing. One late evening, she was about to close. The wok had already been rinsed. The fire nearly died out. Then another group walked in. Something hot, something spicy, something that goes well with rice, and cheap. It was the coldest part of the night. Bodies tired, stomachs empty, spirits low. In the kitchen, only a few ingredients remained. A few pieces of tofu, a small bowl of minced beef, dubanjiang chili bean paste, fermented black beans, dried chilies, Sichuan peppercorns. She looked at the men shivering from the river wind. She didn't turn them away. The iron wok went back onto the flame. She poured in a ladle of rapeseed oil. In those days, it carried a faint, grassy scent. The oil heated until thin wisps of smoke curled upward, then a handful of crushed chilies. Sss. The sound burst into the quiet room. Red bloomed in the oil. The aroma rose immediately. In went the minced beef. Her wrist was steady, movements efficient. The meat sizzled, releasing its fat, drying slowly until it began to whisper against the bottom of the wok. That faint, sandy sound that tells you it has crisped just right. Fermented black beans followed. Their deep, savory fragrance grounded the spice. Then came the tofu. She slid the cubes gently into the red oil. They trembled slightly in the heat. She didn't rush to stir. A splash of water gave the sauce space to envelop them. A careful turn, not broken. The lid went on. Low flame. The sauce simmered, soft, rhythmic bubbling. At the very end, she crushed Sichuan peppercorns fresh and sprinkled them from above. In that moment, the aroma became layered, almost three-dimensional, numbing, spicy, savory, warm. A bowl was placed on the table. Fresh white rice steamed beside it. The red oil trickled down the tofu and seeped into the rice. One porter lifted a cube with his chopsticks. He blew gently, placed it in his mouth. First, the numbing tingle like a tiny electric current dancing across the tongue. Then, heat blooming down the throat. Then, the crisp savor of beef. And finally, the tofu, impossibly soft, almost dissolving. He paused. Then his eyes widened. Another bite and another. Sweat formed along his forehead. Someone laughed and slapped the table. Now that's satisfying. Inside, lantern light glowed warm, bowls clinked, laughter rose. It was not luxurious joy. It was the quiet happiness of hunger finally eased. Spice pushed away the cold. Oil filled the emptiness. From that night on, people didn't say, "Let's go get tofu." They said, "Let's go eat Chen Mapo's tofu." Over time, the recipe evolved. Some customers did not eat beef, so pork was used instead. Later came peanut oil, richer doubanjiang, stock, a touch of starch to thicken the sauce, and a drizzle of sesame oil. But its heart never changed. Freshly ground peppercorn for the numbing lift, chili that is red but not harsh, served hot, always hot, fermented depth anchoring everything. Maybe tonight, outside your window, there is snow. Maybe you are far from Chengdu, in a small kitchen, a modest stove. You cut tofu, brown the meat, stir in chili paste. The oil turns red, and suddenly, the room doesn't feel unfamiliar anymore. Mapo tofu isn't extravagant. It isn't proud or refined. It is simply warmth, born from leftovers, created by a woman whose real name the world forgot. You take one bite, your tongue tingles, your eyes soften, your stomach warms, and somehow you don't feel quite so alone. So tonight, before you fall asleep, imagine that red oil gently shimmering in a black iron wok. Somewhere by Wanfu Bridge, the lantern is still glowing, and the little shop is still open.